Hey guys, Britt here. Welcome to End Times Bible Prophecy. Make sure to hit the subscribe, like, and share buttons. Well, you need to prepare for a global shock in August. What we're going to see in less than 2 months may very well mark a historical turning point in global geopolitical power and who wields it. And it may mean the end of United States military might. We're going to talk at the end about why that is. We're going to connect the dots in the story we're talking about and exactly what's happening. Now, we talked about this about a year ago when this channel launched. It's one of the first things we talked about. And if you were watching this channel a couple of weeks ago, we had a story about this. Now we're going to dig a little bit deeper into it. So what am I talking about that could be a global shock in less than 2 months and transform the global power structure? Well, I'm talking about the subject right here. This article is from Daily Reckoning. It's by Jim Rickards, who is a global financial expert. He is an expert on currencies. I've read many of his articles for years and years, seen many interviews he's done. He's not prone to hyperbole and saying the world's coming to an end all the time. He's very reasonable and logical in the conclusions he draws, and he definitely knows what he's talking about. And he says, in this article titled "The Biggest Monetary Shock in 52 Years," he says, "I recently revealed that the so-called BRICS Plus countries will announce the creation of a new currency at its annual Leaders Summit conference in August 22nd through 24th. Now, we went over this a couple of weeks ago. He digs in a little bit more in this article, and we're going to talk about how important this could be. He says this will be the biggest upheaval in international finance since 1971. It's taking direct aim at the dollar. Quite simply, the world is unprepared for this geopolitical shockwave. It appears likely that the new BRICS Plus currency will be linked to a weight of gold. And let me take a time out from what he's talking about right there, because I'll say if it's going to be the significant event that he says it is, it must be linked to gold, and not just linked to gold. It must be convertible into gold, meaning individuals can exchange this currency for the stated weight in gold that it's worth, or other nations can do so. Because you can claim something's linked to something else all you want, but where's the proof? And I'm not so sure that I would trust Russia and China to say, "Oh, just trust us. If you wanted the gold, you could have it." They're going to have to prove it if they want to gain that trust. Because as little trust as I have in the United States government, I trust the United States a whole lot more than I trust Russia and China when it comes to these types of promises. So if they want the world to take notice of a BRICS Plus currency, it not only needs to be linked to gold, it must be convertible into gold. So let's see what else he says. He says, this plays to the strengths of BRICS members, Russia and China. These countries are the 2 largest gold producers in the world and are ranked 6th and 7th, respectively, among the 100 nations with gold reserves. And that would be, at least as far as we know, who knows if the United States has the gold that it claims it has. So, and who knows if these other countries might have more. Nobody really knows how much each country has. It says one difficulty in considering the impact of the new BRICS currency on the dollar is that all dollar indices compare currency to currency. But that's meaningless, since the dollar, euro, and sterling could all suffer from a loss of confidence at the same time. If gold goes from $2,000 to $10,000 per ounce, that is better understood as an 80% devaluation of the dollar, from 0.0005 ounces per dollar to 0.0001 ounces per dollar. In other words, it's not the price of gold going up, it's the price of the dollar going down. He says that's a collapse of confidence, but you'll miss it if you're looking at euros or yen. Those currencies will all be collapsing at the same time. And then he goes on and he talks about a number of other things. We're going to skip through this. I'll put a link to this article in the comments as well, or pin it at the top of the comments, as well as put it in the description of this video, so you can go read all of it, and I recommend that you do that. But I want to cut to the end and see what he has to say here. He says, this part is titled, China and Russia are likely to call the shots. He says that the dollar price of gold goes up, the value of BRICS 1.00, we're going to call that a BRICS dollar. So he says that if the dollar price of gold goes up, the value of a BRICS dollar will go up against the US dollar. If the dollar price of gold goes down, the value of a BRICS dollar will go down against the dollar. In other words, a BRICS dollar will be equal to gold because it's linked to gold. He says, if I'm a BRICS member, I might want the dollar price of gold to go up so I can buy US goods and services on the cheap. Conversely, if I'm a BRICS member and a commodity exporter, so you sell oil or metals that you've mined, agricultural products, you might want the dollar price of gold to go down so that people with dollars will buy more of your commodities. Of course, that undermines the point of the BRICS currency to some extent, because the whole idea is to get away from dollar-based transactions. And I think there's something else more behind it we're going to talk about in just a second. China and Russia are likely to call the shots. My estimate is they will want a high dollar price for gold, and I believe that's correct, in order to make their BRICS currency more valuable. This will help to increase their own wealth and destroy confidence in the dollar. And guys, I think that is what this is all about. It says this policy, backed up by physical gold purchases, could drive the dollar price of gold to $3,000 per ounce or higher very quickly. In reality, the BRICS currency and physical gold are pegged and unchanged. If gold goes to $3,000 per ounce, we are actually witnessing the collapse of the dollar. And that's the whole idea. The dollar stands to lose in value measured in gold or BRICS currency. The dollar will also lose value due to inflation resulting from the lower value. It will take more dollars to buy imported goods or take vacations abroad. Moving money into stocks, bonds, or savings accounts won't protect you because they're all denominated in dollars. There's a simple solution to this coming currency crisis. Just buy gold. That will preserve wealth and protect you from inflation. You can always sell the gold if you need cash. It's just that you'll get more cash than what you use to buy it. That's what the BRICS nations are doing. And you can too. And that is what the BRICS nations are doing, because we've talked in the past about how 2022 was the largest year for central bank purchases of gold since the late 1960s. And what did he say at the beginning of this article? You know, the biggest currency crisis in 52 years. So in 1971, the dollar's link to gold was severed. And so we saw how central banks acted before that happened by buying up gold. Well, they've been doing the same thing for the last 2 years because they see this coming, I believe, because it's been BRICS nations in large part that have been doing that. And it says, time to hop on the BRICS bandwagon with gold. And that's his opinion on that. But I think there's something much more sinister at play here, guys. This is about power. And we've talked about this several times over the course of the last year. I believe this is what the war in Ukraine is all about. And we speculated that Vladimir Putin, as you know, Russia is the world's lowest cost producer of oil on the planet. What if they were to revalue an ounce of gold versus barrels of oil? What could they do to the United States and its allies under that? Well, maybe one of the reasons they didn't do that is because they've been working on this, which would effectively do something similar and really strike at the Achilles heel of the Western financial system, which is fiat currencies. We had these fiat currencies and all of this financialization, these derivatives. And of course, the United States has linked its currency for years. Following the severing of that link to gold in 1971, a couple of years later, they set up what was called the petrodollar, which meant that Saudi Arabia and OPEC nations would only trade their oil for dollars in exchange for U.S. military protection. Well, we've seen that alliance, we've seen those relationships breaking apart over the last 2 years. We've seen those OPEC nations saying, well, we're willing to make trades of our oil and natural gas and currencies other than the dollar. So we're seeing the petrodollar go away. And if that goes away, and you have this other currency come about that is convertible into gold, well, now you have competition for the world's reserve currency, which means when nations trade and make these trades, are they going to want to hold United States debt, treasury debt, when they know the United States is just printing dollars left and right? Or would you rather hold gold, which you know the United States cannot simply print into existence, and therefore it holds its value? It's a store of value. And so you're getting a fair trade for your goods and services by receiving gold in return instead of pieces of paper. If you have any doubt that that's what the dollar is, guys, it's ones and zeros on a computer screen and it's pieces of paper. As an example, this week, my kids participated in this backyard Bible camp. And one of the things that one of the instructors showed us was he was handing out these, right? He goes, here, take some of these. And you look at this and you go, oh, this is a $10 bill. And then he said, but I want to make sure the parents know this isn't real money. Because when you look at it, it says copy right there. You look at the back, it says motion picture purposes, right? So this is made for the film industry, but it looks close enough to the real thing that somebody might actually spend it and get arrested. They didn't want that to happen. But my son, he's a very smart one. And when he heard, well, this isn't real money, he said, well, Dad, a genuine $10 bill, that isn't real money either. Which is an observation that most people don't make, because what is this? This is, a counterfeit. It's, again, used in the film industry. But what is it? It's a piece of paper with some ink on it and a picture of Alexander Hamilton on this one. It's got some fancy pictures on it, some writing, some ink. What is a genuine $10 bill? Well, a genuine $10 bill is also a piece of paper with a bunch of ink and fancy pictures on it. There's no difference. The only difference between the two is if I'm to create my own $10 bills and try to spend them, I'll get arrested. But if the United States government runs the printing press and creates new $10 bills, they get to go spend those and buy up oil, commodities abroad, manufacture goods from other countries. Other countries are getting sick and tired of this, and so they're moving in this direction. And I believe that's what the war in Ukraine is all about. It was intentionally done to goad the United States into issuing these severe financial sanctions against Russia. And when the rest of the world saw that, they said, well, they could do that to us too, right? Maybe we want to try to get away from this. And of course, we've seen how the United States has increased its currency supply by 40% since the pandemic. 40% of all the dollars in existence have been created in the last 4 years. So we've seen the United States is operating at a $1 trillion annual budget deficits, $34 trillion in debt right now. When you add in all of the unfunded liabilities and future liabilities, it's over $100 trillion in national debt. And other countries are starting to think, well, could they really ever pay that back other than just printing dollars? And so as they go and say, you know what, I think rather than holding on to these dollars, maybe we'll hold this BRICS currency instead that's convertible into gold. Or we'll just hold gold outright. We'll buy gold instead. And so what does that do to the United States financially when they start unloading all of that debt in favor of something else? What does that do to the interest rates? What do those higher interest rates do to the United States' physical position when they have to run multi-trillion-dollar deficits? What happens when all of the tax revenue collected in the United States is consumed solely by the interest owed on the national debt? Well, at that point, you have just runaway hyperinflation of the currency. People will lose faith in the little pieces of paper, and it all comes to an end. The United States has built its military power and might, the ability to project power on a global basis and have hundreds of military bases all over the world on the basis that they can acquire oil by simply printing dollars, that they can control the world financial system by what they do with the dollar, who they allow to use the dollar, who they issue sanctions against, whether interest rates go up or down. That gives the United States enormous power, and we may well see that power start to erode in 2 months if the BRICS nations decide they're going to conduct their trade in a new currency convertible into gold. And if that happens, again, we could see a shift in global power away from the United States and its allies to Russia and China and the other BRICS nations. And have no doubt about it, I think that's what we said a year ago. We are in World War III right now. It may not be a shooting war. It may not be a kinetic war other than inside the borders of Ukraine. But have no doubt about it, there's an information war on a global scale going on right now. There's a cyber war going on a global scale right now. And there is a financial war on a global scale going on right now. On the financial front, World War III broke out a year and a half ago, and it's an ongoing war. And this may be one of the pivotal battles in that war. If this currency comes out, it could destroy the United States financially. It could destroy the European Union, Japan, and these other fiat-based currency nations that don't manufacture their own goods, don't produce their own oil and food and commodities that they need to exist. And they could very well see their standard of living go down in the midst of all that's going to happen. And have no doubt about it, we saw just yesterday that there's these riots breaking out in France, and there's some speculation on, well, is this intended? Is somebody trying to fan the flames of these riots in order to remove people from political power? Well, that's probably not a bad speculation, because what have we seen Emmanuel Macron do? Emmanuel Macron, he recently visited China and expressed interest in France joining the BRICS plus nations. So the world is moving toward this, and this would mean a breakup of United States superpower status. And of course, the United States in the past, when they were threatened with these types of things, such as nations like Libya and Iraq trading their oil for gold, they were able to topple those governments. It's much a far taller order to topple Russia and China when they're protected with a nuclear umbrella. That's a war that we don't want to see fought. So that war is being fought financially right now. And this is going to be a very pivotal time in that war. So we will see what happens. But again, let's remember the United States is not mentioned in Bible prophecy. There are probably a number of reasons for that, but it's very clear the United States will not be a superpower in the last days. And so during the tribulation, we don't see the United States taking a primary role in world affairs. I believe the rapture will be one of the reasons that that's the case. The rapture will just, I think, destroy the United States militarily, financially, politically. It will be devastating to the United States. But the United States is already slouching toward destruction of its own making, culturally, politically, financially, in so many ways. The United States has run up massive amounts of debt. For decades, the United States has been the leading exporter of financial instruments and currency, the US dollar. And the production of real things has shifted to other countries, many of them in these BRICS nations. So we've outsourced the manufacturing of our goods here in the United States. We've outsourced the production of our energy to other places, especially in the European Union has done that. And yet what has been given to the rest of the world, financialization, promises, all of these ones and zeros on a computer screen, derivatives, all of that stuff, I believe, is going to come crashing down as a result of this, because this is the Achilles heel. They can't manipulate real gold on the open market. And when other nations demand gold for their services, well, the only way you're going to be able to get that is to print dollars. And that's going to destroy the U.S. financial system. So, guys, that's what I see coming. Looks like Jim Rickards is saying this is coming August 22nd through 24th at this BRICS conference. I've heard a number of other people make the same claim. We'll see what happens. Again, if it's not convertible into gold, then this isn't going to happen. But if on those dates they meet and announce that, then you can know that it marked a historical turning point in global financial and military power. It won't last for long, I don't think, because certainly Russia is mentioned in the Gog of Magog war as being destroyed by God in that war. So I'm not saying that Russia and China are going to take over the world by any means, but we very well could see the United States, its superpower status, go away as a result of this. A lot of power shift eastward, politically, militarily, financially, until it shifts to the final Antichrist kingdom in the tribulation. We'll have to wait and see. But keep in mind, it wasn't that long ago we had Chairman Xi in China go to make a visit to Moscow and meet with Putin. And what did they talk about? What did they make sure that the cameras caught them saying as Xi departed? Is something along the lines of, something like this only happens every 100 years, right? What were they talking about? I believe they could very well be talking about what's going to be announced in August, because if they are behind rolling out a gold-backed currency to compete against the dollar, then that is the type of shift, that type of change that only happens every 100 years. And we saw that shift happen about 100 years ago when the United Kingdom, the British Empire, the sun never set on the British Empire is what they would say. And they had a gold-backed currency. And then they went into World War I, and they came out on the other side without a gold-backed currency. And the empire started to crumble, and who took over? Well, the torch, that reserve currency status, moved to the United States, where they still had that gold-backed currency. So we could see something similar happen. I don't know. What do you think? Leave your comments below. Again, this is speculation on my part and Jim Rickard's part, but I think it's well thought out speculation. It's something we need to be paying attention to. So let me know what you think. Leave your comments below. Make sure to hit the like, share, and subscribe buttons. And God willing, I will see you on Monday. Bye. If you want to learn more about the end times and Bible prophecy, make sure to sign up for my free monthly newsletter and get your copy of my free ebook, 7 Signs of the End Times. Just follow the link in the description to get your free book. Also, make sure to check out all of my books. Just look up Britt on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Apple iBooks, Google Books, Kobo, or anywhere books are sold. Thanks for watching today, and until next time, keep your eyes fixed on Jesus, the author and perfecter of our faith.